Everyone, just going to wait a couple more minutes to allow more people to join us on the stream. And then we will start today's open discussion. Just a few more minutes. All right. Welcome, everyone, to an open discussion and various topics class number 107. Let's open up with reciting a prayer for spiritual workers. And then we'll move into our Q&A session. Prayer for spiritual workers. Almighty God, I bless all those who, because of their limitations, would smite me. Almighty God, I bless all those who, because of their weakness, would not heed me. Almighty God, I bless all those who, because of their ignorance, would defile you through me. And I ask, Almighty God, O wondrous power, that your strength may be given to me now, so that I might be fortified by this, so that I might go forward bravely into the world, and despite reception, send forth my love of thee throughout all races of man. Almighty God, give me the power and strength to rise above my karmic weakness, the deficiencies in the pattern of my evolution, so that I might evolve and become stronger, I, and even stronger, in thy everlasting light. O God, thy will be done. All right. Welcome again, everyone, to another open discussion and various topics class. Thank you very much for joining us today. And as per usual, feel free to post your questions in the chat or comments in the chat if you're joining us on YouTube. If you're joining us on Zoom, you can also use the raise hand feature to ask your questions audibly. No, we haven't, I think we missed the past couple of weeks. So hopefully there are plenty of questions in queue waiting for us to address today. Well, later on in the second half of the open discussion, we may go into another set of diagrams to continue learning and studying this material that's been prepared for us by teacher, Mr. Nehemiah Davis. So to start off, do we have any questions? Oh, Jack, I see your hand is raised. Go ahead and ask your question.
Hello, yes, I have a question about mantra. I was reading a lecture from Dr. King called Psychic Self-Defense, and he talks a bit about mantra, and he says that you can also do it when you're doing a repetitive task to practice it. So it doesn't have to be just when I'm doing my practices in the morning or sitting in my prayer room. So is that okay then, just to do a mantra when you are doing a repetitive task, or gardening or whatever repetitive task it is?
How you doing, Jack?
I am doing great, thanks.
Yeah, I mean, you could do that. I did it. I know many people who did it. Just have to be careful not to overdo it or attract attention, giving other people the mantra. But yeah, I mean, you can do it. And then another thing, you have to keep your thoughts clear and pure, in my opinion, in doing it. Because the power mantra is guaranteed. I don't know if you understand that, but when you chant a mantra, tremendous energy is formed. So it's creative energy too. So you can bring things into being by chanting mantra. So you just have to be careful about how you go about doing those things when you're doing a particular task. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, he also said in the lecture about doing it about, he gave a number of how long it takes to live within you. It's the first time I've seen that written. He said about 50 to 60,000 times, which, you know, if you do it dynamically, I guess you can do it 1,000 times in an hour. So I guess if you do that, if you do it 1 hour a day, then that's 2 months. I worked it out. So would that have to be, sorry?
I don't know. I mean, he also said that depends on the person's karma.
Right.
So, and Swami Sivananda said the same thing. It could be 50,000 times or 1 million times or
Oh, wow.
60 million times. So it all depends on a person's karma.
Does it because if you're training for sport, for example, you know, say you're training for a marathon, if you stop and you train intermittently, there's no accumulated benefit. You have to train within a certain period, otherwise your muscles don't develop. Is it the same? Is it the same with mantra? Could you repeat it, you know, for 2 months solid and then take a break for a month and then you do it for another month, or does it have to be done? Or is there any guidance on how does once you've said it this number of times, if you does it have to be done with a certain period, or do you lose the power, or is it?
No, I that's a good question. I don't think so. I mean, I think that the way they really taught it back in the day, the way I learned to do it is when we got serious enough about trying to do it, then you sit and you chant it for days on end until you feel the mantra begin to live within you or move within you. So what we used to do, we used to wait till summertime and we would get all our chores out of the way. And we would spend 3 to 4 days at a time chanting the mantra. My siblings and I, that's what I'm talking about. And we would do it night and day, only taking a couple hours of sleep.
Wow.
So I mean, and then you have a routine of doing that maybe for 6, 7, 8 weeks until you feel the power of the mantra when you chant the mantra. And in the if you go back to a book Sivananda wrote, a comprehensive, I think Japa, a comprehensive study on Java. You'll see Sivananda talks about that technique of how to chant the mantra constantly, and Dr. King talked about it briefly too. But there's there's a book where Swami Sivananda goes in and he goes into it in detail, talking about that method of sitting down and chanting the mantra until the mantra lives within you.
Yeah, I need to build up. I could do an hour's pranayama, but I haven't been able to get to that stage of just being able to sit and do mantra for extended periods of time. So I'm working my way up to that.
I mean, when you take a vacation, try it. You know, instead of flying out somewhere, say, okay, I'm going to sit down for 3 or 4 days just do from Thursday to Sunday on your vacation time. And you'll notice it's a tremendous difference.
Yeah, I do want to do that. You mentioned about doing it in the summer. I wanted to ask about pranayama in the summer. Is it in some?
No, because I was in school at the time. I was a student, so in summers I had large periods of time off during the summer. Only thing I had to do was just do chores for my parents or whatever. And so I would take 3 to 4 days and just chant the mantra and do my pranayama. And I was able to do at least 16 hours a day with minimum breaks, you know. And I had the guidance of my older brother with me, so, you know, but I mean, those were the techniques that was given to us from Swami Sivananda. I think Swami Vivekananda and Swami Sivananda's students. They gave the techniques that he left for them. And then I had my father also teaching us how to do it. But that's the right. I mean that's one of the ways, not the only way, but that's one of the ways. And then Dr. King told us take 20, 30 minutes a day. And you could do morning and evenings or morning and night. You know, that's an easy way to do it as well. And then you'll find that the 20 minutes will turn to 30 minutes or maybe to an hour, you know, and you'll find that you're doing an hour a day or maybe an hour and a half a day. I found that was very easy too, to do 20 minutes a day and build it up.
Yeah, I've got into a groove with the pranayama, but I guess when you do it for those extended periods, you do sort of get into a kind of trance state. Is that right? Or?
Well, you want to avoid going too much into a trance state, but because you want to stay conscious until you can alter the consciousness into a higher trance state. You don't want to go into.
You get into a groove, yeah.
Yeah, you don't want to go into a trance state where you forgot exactly what happened.
Right. But it's enjoyable is maybe the word to use. It becomes.
Yeah, where time is not prevalent.
Right. As we're coming up to the summer, and you mentioned pranayama, I did read somewhere that if it gets really hot, it's not advisable to do pranayama. Have you noticed that? I mean, you're obviously in Miami, so it's pretty hot. Do you ever try and avoid it, or do it a cooler part of the day, or are there any other guidelines for that?
You got to protect yourself from heat exhaustion, but you have a place in your house. At least that's what I always did. I have a area in my house that I only allow spiritual things to go on in there, or I limit the activity that goes on in that particular room, and that's where I pray or do my pranayama or my mantra or any type of healing.
Okay.
So I mean, you create a particular atmosphere by doing that.
Okay, I just wondered if it was the best to avoid it too much in the summer, if it builds up too much heat in the body, too much pitta, or if it's okay if you do it in like a cool space, like an air-conditioned, well, not air-conditioned, so you need ventilation, but you can still continue the practice through the summer months is my question.
Yeah, you could. I mean, when you do these practices, you're supposed to do it year round. I mean, until you gain certain resorts, or until you master it to a level where you can bring on certain conditions at will.
All right, thank you very much. I got some more inspiration there, and I'll keep up my practices. Thank you.
All right, then.
Jack, I don't remember which lecture it was where the master talked about how in some places in India, some masters would have their students practice pranayama next to corpses. or to get so that they can be to help them get over certain inhibitions or certain limitations. So I wouldn't be too worried about practicing pranayama in the summer, because thankfully we're no longer under those rules or masters.
Okay, wow, that's hardcore.
Yeah. Any additional questions or comments? Since we're just talking about mantra, I do want to share the initiation into dynamic and soul mantra, made available by Dr. George King on the Desai website. It is an initiation into several mantras given by Dr. George King, a yogi master of mantra, and several other yoga systems. And in this, he gives several types of mantras, two types in particular, dynamic mantra and soul mantra. He gives an introduction, explains the law of mantra, and has some of his students demonstrate the proper intonation of those mantras. So I would highly recommend going to the aetherius.org website and picking up the initiation recording into dynamic and soul mantra. And also on this website, there are several lectures that Dr. George King gives on mantra, as well as in our video library on YouTube, Nehemiah gives lectures on mantra, their use, different applications, be it in prayer, in healing, or in self-development, etc. And if you go back to our study sessions, the very first text we covered was the book that Nehemiah authored on mantra. All right, Jackson, another question? Go ahead.
Yes, I had a follow-up question. When we do pranayama, we build up a lot of energy on our body, and we have this energy the weak take from the strong. Is that right? And I was just wondering if it says in one, I think it was the fourth blessing, as this mighty orb, the sun gives freely of its energy unto all life streams in the solar system, so must terrestrial man give freely of his energy to those who need it. So if you get charged up with practices, and then you go out among people, they do take your energy through the solar plexus. Should you have a period of rest for an hour after pranayama and that, or does it matter, or should you distribute the energy freely? Are there any sort of guidelines for that?
Well, my understanding is that one of the reasons you do the pranayama is is to train the solid mass and the subtle solid mass within the physical body and the astral body to regulate subtle energy, and to train the subtle energy of how to move through the physical mass, this dense physical mass, whether it's the physical mass of the physical body and the physical mass of the subtle of the astral subtle bodies, which the astral bodies is more of a distortion, and the physical body is sort of distortion as well. But the astral body definitely is a distortion. And the operating system of the gross physical body is part distortion as well. And one of the reasons why we do pranayama is to train the energy to move through this solid and this gross solid mass and subtle gross mass of the physical and astral body. So now that means that we take in the energy from the earth, the moon, and the sun, and all the energy coming, and actually all the energy coming from the sun have to be conditioned by these other graceful gods like the moon and the earth, in order for us to even receive that holy energy from the sun. Is not only is conditioned by the solar lords of the sun, then it's conditioned by the moon, and is conditioned by the Mother Earth and all the other planets of the earth, in order for us to even receive the energy from the sun. So once we learn to control this subtle prana or subtle energy from the mighty sun, one of the things is that we will begin to naturally give the energy out to anyone who comes into our orbit who needs this energy. So because right as we do now, we spend a lot of our energy on frivolous things that does not matter, and we don't predetermine how we're going to use our energy, because with any energy you're using, you should predetermine how you're going to use that energy and why you're going to use that energy. And that's what gives the energy, that's what gives that the actions or deposit their right amount of energy into it. And we're taught in mysticism to always predetermine our actions. And that's one of the mental defects we have in the gross physical body and the astral body. So naturally, when scientists look at us, the first thing they notice is that the plant life gives us energy, and in return we give the plant life energy. And that's the plant life gives us oxygen. We give the plant life carbon dioxide. Now, they say that's a natural process. It is a natural process, but the thing is that how discolored is our carbon dioxide that we're giving to the plant life, and then in return, how discolored the plant life oxygen is to us. Naturally, when we receive this energy from the sun, and they have been conditioned by all these other great cosmic beings, we have a huge responsibility to do right and to use that energy right. And that's why we constantly build up the negative karma we do. So when you think about it on that level, so that you can understand it's far more it's far more in depth than what you ever thought about. So when you're doing your pranayama, just in the beginning, just try to train your body to take in large quantities of energy, and also train your body in the first and second principle of the limbs of yoga, which is control your thought and actions, and observe God in every action, in every thought and action. And that will help to condition the pranayama that you take in. I hope that gave you some type of understanding.
Yeah, that was a much deeper answer than I expected. Thank you very much.
Question: how is prana taken into the bodies or aura on the other realms, like on the astral and the etheric realms?
It's the same exact way. I mean, it's taken in through the chakras and various organs, and some planes you eat and drink, and some planes you don't eat and drink. But you always taking in energy. Right now on the physical plane, we're taking in energy through our chakras and through and through various other organs, physical organs and subtle organs of our body, which is connected to 108 chakras within the auric sphere. So that's the main way we take in this subtle energy. On the physical level, we take it in through the nadis, through the nadi openings, which is breath, eyes, ears, of course, the nostrils and the tongue, the anus, the feet, and the fingers and toes. Those are the nadi openings of the body. So those are it's the same way on the other realms as well. If you have a humanoid, if you wearing a humanoid body on the other side.
So on the realms where they don't have to eat or drink, are they operating at or above the solar plexus center? I mean, the level of consciousness operating upon, is it above the solar plexus?
It depends on their level of development. The only ones I think that's not operating, that's operating on the ascendant masters. That's not operating on the base of the spine, although they may have shades of themselves that they may develop in order to operate from that level. I hope I answered that for you.
I'm trying to think, the ones that don't have to eat, does that mean the material that their bodies are made of are under greater mental control, so they don't have to take in physical substance to sustain their bodies?
Well, they have conditioned themselves to draw the energy in through through the normal process, which is through the chakras. So that's all that is.
And we can't do that here on the gross physical realm because of the karmic limitations of this realm, or because of the level of consciousness we're operating upon.
You have some yogis who claim they have did it. I think even Paramahansa Yogananda met a couple of those yogis and who claimed that they had conditioned their physical body where they didn't have to eat solid foods, where they can pull the energy from the cosmos.
Yeah, I remember the story in Autobiography Yoga, the yogi who ate that hot iron, or was molten iron, and was able to, it didn't burn him, he just converted that right into energy. That's something similar to that?
Yeah, and just like the Swami Rama, he talked about some yogis he met that was able to take a rock and turn it into nuts. He even demonstrated to Swami Rama and his friend that he made them cut. It was a dead body, made them cut off chunks of meat of the dead body, and he waved his hand over the rotted dead meat, and it turned to sweet candy or whatever. So you have cases like that. Yeah, did I answer your question?
Yeah.
I think that's in the book, The Masters of the Himalayas, I think, with Swami Rama. They even have those auto books now. So
So in that rock example you quoted from that text, what exactly is happening? Because remember, the master theorist saying, I think it was master theorist or Marxist saying the worm is a worm because it believes it is a worm. So when that yogi is taking that rock, which is the mind of that rock, is manipulating the pranas to give it that particular shape, that expression of life at that time. And that is that yogi imposing his mind onto that rock and changing its pranic configuration to that of, I forgot what you said, sweet means something?
yeah, I mean, that's what I mean. Even scientists realize that it's the arrangement of the atoms that make things look the way they are. But they would tell you in basic science that an atom is the same. The components of the atoms is the same. It's just the electronic configuration that give its appearance, its taste, its characteristics. Is how the electrons configure themselves to express life. So the yogis that they can manipulate prana and mind, they know how to do that. In fact, even before the scientists talked about it, they talked about it. They talked about doing that hundreds, maybe thousands of years before the science discovered the atomic structure.
Any other questions or comments?
What diagrams you was going to go over today?
Mic on. I don't know. I was going to do the mantra ones.
Okay.
Since we're talking about that for a bit. I was going to see if there are any other questions or topics that came up. This is longer than I thought it would be. Oh, Annalise, your hand is raised. Go ahead and ask your question.
Since we were talking about mantra, I wonder if we could spend some time discussing the Devic kingdom, how to, I don't, for lack of a better word, commune or share with the Devic kingdom in your vicinity, your home, stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, you're constantly communicating with the Devic Kingdom. You just don't know it, and but because we got so far away from it, I was recently I ran across a book that I had started writing long time ago, and I had stopped, but I went back to it, and I went trying to go over, and I remember some simple things that my brother Al taught me. I was like 8 or 10 years old, because when I was much earlier, I used to see the divas constantly at work, and as you grow older, you don't see that anymore, or it's sparingly. So I would ask him about it. He said the divas are always here, and he went. He began to teach me about shape power, and that's a book that I had started writing. And I stopped, and he told me, he said that he took a simple square, and And he said, how do I activate the power of the divas with this square? Because we were always painting and doing all type of projects. And he told me that the basic shapes is like a portal, but you have to use a device in order to move the energy out of there and bring the divas in place. The same way, if I had dirt, if I had soil, a rich soil, how do I bring the divas to begin to interact and work on my behalf? I take the soil, I put it in a pot, I put it in either pot or a ground or whatever. A pot is really most pots are circle. And what is a circle? A circle is a way to pull on the energy called akasa, which is mind and prana combined. And then you drop the seed in there, and then you pour water in it, and you have an abundance. You have several different divas at work there. The same way if you had a square and you took a triangle and you put it on all four corners of that square, that's a device to make the energy, to bring the power of the divas together and make the energy abundance in there, or push or make a pull on the energy or that portal. So we're constantly doing this. You know, when you drink water, you are activating the divas within you. When you eat, you are activating the divas within you. When you speak, you are activating the divas within you and around you. So you're constantly in communication with the divas. You just don't realize it because we moved away from that type of metaphysical science. And we don't, because the same way I was talking earlier is that the solar lords is the thing that released the energy from the sun, because we are not really deserving of the energy of the sun. So the solar lords make that karmic manipulation to allow us to receive that energy. Then you have the moons that manipulate the energy, that condition the energy even further in order to reach the earth. And then you have the earth itself that manipulate the energy through many things: the ocean, the atmosphere, the ocean, the mountains, the earth, the plant life. They manipulate this energy in order to condition it so that we can exist on multiple realms of existence. And how do they manipulate the energy? Through the loyal servants of the lords of karma, which is the divas. So they manipulate all energy in order to allow us to exist. So you're always in communication with the divas. You always creating the right conditions for the divas in order to allow them to bring about the direct resort that you want, or the predetermined resorts that you want. And when you get it wrong, the resorts don't come about. When you get it right, the resorts come about. So I hope I didn't confuse it. I hope that answered your question.
Yes, it did. Thank you.
Any other questions? I found a couple of documents here, or notes actually, from previous classes that Nehemiah has given on mantra. Not going to read all of them, but I'd like to cover a couple. Give us some more information on power of mantra. Can everyone see that? I know it's a lot of text. These are notes. They're different from the handouts and diagrams that Nehemiah creates. But I can pull up some diagrams after we take a look at a couple of these. So the power of mantra, ancient mystic science of sound. This was from a class that Nehemiah did in the past. I think this particular set of notes may be from 2011 or 2012, maybe even 2013. This class will discuss the ancient mystic science of mantra power, which is the creative sound vibrations that manifest and sustains life. Mantra is the close kept secret within the mystic world of spirituality. Mantra is one of the key methods to raising man's consciousness. Mantra is the sonic vibration that was released from the absolute at the beginning of creation, that placed this static sea of mind and prana substance into motion. When we break the Sanskrit word mantra into two parts, man and tra, we find that the word man means to think and the word tra means to protect and free. Therefore, mantra can be seen to mean that one can be freed from the thoughts and protected from thoughts, or vice versa. The power of mantra at start of creation. Mantra is a natural sound vibration said to be released by God, the Absolute, at the beginning of creation, and continues to vibrate throughout the universe as a creative power source for manifesting and maintaining all creation. This sound vibration is the creative song of the Absolute, God, and is repeated throughout the universe by the great celestial beings that responds to the great will of God unconditionally, such as the galaxies, central suns, the solar logos of every solar system. Variations and components of the great creative song are repeated from the planets of each solar system. The power of mantra and the soul. The soul, moving on the directives of the spirit, uses a series of mantra sounds to mold and shape the Shakti power into a vehicle of consciousness, Kundalini, by moving it down the Brahmic line of force, Sushumna, where at the base chakra region, the forces at play allow the soul to inhibit over 90% of its power, placing the Shakti into a dormant state called Kundalini, the energy pattern that brings about involved or basic consciousness. The power of mantra and the Kundalini. Once the soul formulates the power of Kundalini, it uses mantra sounds in order to build the subtle and pranic bodies that will act as the vehicles of expression for the soul. It also pushes the mantric sounds to a fourth state of operation, where it locks in the basic state of consciousness that it's operating from on the gross physical plane of existence. The power of mantra and the nadis. These nadis create a matrix of thin lines of force that link the chakras, creating various levels of consciousness. Each chakra expresses the will of the spirit and a portion of the soul's consciousness. This nadic system is created by the soul's will to begin its journey through involution to evolution. The soul creates and sustains this nadic matrix through the use of a sacred mantra that is chanted repeatedly. The mantra repeated from the soul forms the nadis and then shapes the complex, intricate nadi matrix. It is the ancient mantra the soul uses to breathe life into these cosmic lines of force that links the chakras, creating the embodied consciousness, jiva, as a great expression of life. The power of mantra and the chakras. Chakras are points or parts of the soul's essence manifested in consciousness, but each point gives access to a glimpse of the whole and helps to break the illusion of individuality. Chakras are the seat of man's true consciousness. The power of japa, mantra chanting. Japa means the recitation of a mantra. The Sanskrit meaning behind the word japa is as follows. The first syllable, ja, means to destroy the birth and death cycles of reincarnation. And the second syllable, pa, means to destroy all sins. In other words, through the practice of japa, mankind can destroy all sins, thereby breaking the wheel of rebirth and releasing the soul of its gross earthly bondage. The power of mantra and spiritual development. The purification of the aura and the nadi pathways brought about by the constant chanting of mantra allows a clear flow of pranic forces within the physical and subtle sensory pathways, giving man the abilities of clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience, psychometry, etc. The clearing of the subtle pathways brings about marriage of the physical and astral sensory perceptions, which happens to create a sensitive pathways that produces psychic powers. It is said that psychic and spiritual development begins when the aura and nadi pathways are purified of discolored energy configurations that set up blockages within the nadic and auric pathways. With the removal of these blockages, man can direct concentrated, energized thought particles through methods of pranayama and Kundalini yoga exercises through the nadi pathways, stimulating the brain and chakra system. Constant mantra chanting enhances concentration potencies. With this ability of concentration and without the subtle energized obstructions, the psychic senses are readily available for use. Is there anything you want to add to that, Nehemiah, if I move on to the next document? Or do we have any other questions?
No, there's no time either.
All right, Mr. Stafford, I see your hand. Go ahead and ask your question.
Yeah, I was wondering about the phrase "be still and know that I am God." I've heard that mentioned a few times, and I looked into it, and it also says in the Bible quite a lot, "I am." And there was also a religious, spiritual group I found on the internet. I think it was an offshoot of the Saint Germain group, and they said it was a particular mantra, but I thought it would be the main mantra, the word, but I was wondering what that means, be still and know that I am God. If it's that mantra, then is that the only interpretation of it, or is there more meaning behind it?
Well, I mean, you can look at that in many ways. I mean, the one way to look at it in a simple way so that you can kind of grasp it, have a deeper contemplation and eventually meditation over it, is that God has no reason for movement. You know, so That's one way to look at it. God is everything, and God is the backboard or the power behind everything. So therefore, God has no reason to move. So when you be still, you realize that God is. And another thing, we understand that God is changeless. Movement creates change. But the power of God, it never decreases or increases, because it is. It is the source of all things. Therefore, it lies in complete stillness. And it's the background for everything in the universe and parallel universe, if you want to look at that. So there's nothing outside of God, and God and everything have to come from God, from the absolute, because God is absolute. So I mean, that's the deeper, I think the deeper meaning of that. Be still and know that I am God. And the word I am in mystic terminology is that the real you, that I am, is the divine spark of God. Because your essence is God, came from God, is God, never left God.
Mm.
And it is complete, it's in complete stillness. Because all power originated from the absolute, and all power must go back to the absolute. And one of the reasons why sound is connected to the absolute so much is because when we speak, the sound comes from silence, and the sound goes back to silence. So it only lasts as long as you make it last. But it all falls back into that endless potential of silence and stillness. So, I mean, that's one way to look at it. To be still is to be God-like. To be silenced is to be God-like as well, because from that comes an endless potential of activity, an endless potential of sound, an endless potential of power. So, I mean, that's one way we replenish ourselves at night by going into the silence. When we wake up in the morning, we have a tremendous level of energy and power to do whatever we need to do. So that's one way of looking at it.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. I'll meditate on that. Thanks very much.
All right.
Nehemiah, how does a God, or the God that does not move, make that first movement? Or why does it? Oh, never mind why. I don't know why.
Who knows? But it makes sense, because the movement what we associate with movement is, if you can look at something that seemed to be endless, has no beginning and no end, And then just in that one little section where you are, there you see movement, but there's no movement nowhere else. So what does that tell you?
Mm-hmm.
When you look into the space in the sky, in the night sky, you notice there's a cluster of stars and or what seem to be stars. Now we know that they are galaxies, and then we it's like an empty space, but you see all these little tiny stars. But then you look, and on the other side, and there's a cluster of stars. Now we know that we're looking into the Milky Way of our own galaxy, and then we turn to the other side, we look, and there's this more space than stars. We know that those are galaxies. Mm-hmm. So, but we also know that there's more space than what there are stars from our vantage point. So it makes sense that from this stillness came motion. From the stillness, in which was projected by sound or vibration. I mean, we limit it to sound, but it was this subtle vibration that burst on the scene. The yogis call etheric sound. Akasa is classified as etheric sound, and the Mahabhutas is classified as Akasa and Prana. So the Mahabhutas, the carrying agent is Akasa, and then the Prana is those other 4 agents or 5 agents, including Akasa, which becomes the etheric elements of the universe. But it's all being carried by a creative wave of etheric sound. Mm-hmm. to kind of like give shape to everything, motion and shape to everything.
Jack, do you have your hand raised again, or is that from before?
Oh, so that was from before.
Oh. Additional questions, comments? Okay, and here's another set of notes from a class I did back in 2011, and again, I think a few years later, on mantra power used for prayer, healing, and personal development. The power of mantra as prayer. Mantra is one of the perfect tools to use as prayer because of its natural ability to mold and shape cosmic energies, pranas. Now, the whole goal of prayer is to pull cosmic energies into the auric structure of man to be impregnated with the mental power substance of purpose and direction. A mental command with a concentrated purpose and direction for cosmic energies is like glue that holds the cosmic energies together until it achieves its purpose. A normal mystic form of prayer uses the spoken word that's been framed in a balanced, positive fashion to encompass the expression of power that you would want to be projected in your prayer. The mystics also use concentrated mental visualization to make a pull on the all-pervasive vital life force, cosmic energies, to come down through their mental subtle structures and be impregnated by the mental commands. Since mantra is a calibrating instrument for the power of prana, it can be a huge amplifying tool on radiating prana through the use of prayer. All thought forms that are manifested and projected from man's mind is created and launched from the chakras. The gross sound vibration that make up the known mantras that are in use by man has a calibrating effect on the chakras, the subtle nervous system, and the auric bodies. The power of mantra synchronizes the chakras, purifies the nadis, and clears the auric bodies of clogged negative thought forms. Therefore, the power of mantra creates a clear pathway for projected prayer energies with a specific purpose and direction. The chanting of mantra before, during, and after prayer enhances the projection of prayer power by the calibration and synchronization of the chakras and auric forces. Any questions on that so far? Okay, next we go, the power of mantra enhances healing energies. The type of healing that is being advocated here is a subtle psychic healing that works from the mental subtle levels to a physical gross material level. The mystics and yogis understood that the physical world is built on the foundation of the subtle mental and energized by subtle cosmic forces of Shakti power. Even the physical medical professionals know that most sickness is psychosomatic, which means that it begins on a mental level, psycho, and fully manifested on a physical level, somatic. Now, the mystic world realized this centuries ago and devised methods of addressing mankind's many mental and physical illnesses through various forms of spiritual healing. The major methods used by the mystics and yogis were a combination of mystic practices that include the following. The healer's ability to use the visualization methods to draw the Shakti powers down through a concentrated mental vortex of organized mental structure with the use of mantra. The healer also uses pranayama procedures that increase the level of prana. It enhances the flow and availability of prana through the regulation of Ida and Pingala Nadic flow of cosmic energies with the use of mantra. The healers use mantra to calibrate their chakras, to heighten the flow of cosmic energies. Yeah. The mantra is used as a shaping and molding tool for cosmic energies that assist in the projection of the mental commands of the healer. Mudra Yoga is used by the healer to seal the cosmic energies from exiting the body in various areas and directing the cosmic energies in a concentrated and potent manner toward a desired exit, and by redirecting the concentrated cosmic energies toward the desired patient with the help of mantra. And finally, using mantra for personal development. Constant and continued practice of mantra can bring about the awakening of the dormant powers of Kundalini. Eventually, Kundalini rises in its entirety from the chanting of mantra. The chakras are activated through the constant chanting of mantra. As stated earlier, the activation and purification of the nadi pathways help to bring about a partial activation of chakras. When a strong degree of concentration is obtained and mantra has begun to live within the practitioner, then he is able to invoke prana to easily clear the nadi pathways and partially activate the chakras to prepare for a conscious movement of the power of Kundalini. So Nima, it's prana that actually clears the nadi pathways, not the spinning of the aura through mantra japa, or both?
It's both, because how does the prana move in one direction?
By the mantra, we chant the mantra. You're
Yeah,
moving.
and what is the greatest and what's the greatest influence on mantra? If you look at the Mahabhutas,
What do you mean by greatest influence on the mantra?
what is akasa?
The carrying agent for the.
Okay, then. So when you chant the mantra, you increase the presence of akasa, which actually calls the spinning of the aura.
Mm-hmm.
And when you spin the aura, then the psychic energy within the aura begins to move. The psychic energy in the aura is the other four Mahabhutas and Pranas.
Mm-hmm.
It's Mahabhutas on the cosmic level and Pranas on the terrestrial level. That is the psychic energy.
Mm-hmm.
And by that energy creating that, how Ramapresa called it a locomotion type force. In modern times, we'll call it a jet fuel type of force.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it'll clear out. It'll cause a tremendous pull and pressure. They will begin to eat up and clear out the pathways in which the natural pathways that that Ida and Pangala have to travel,
Mm-hmm.
which will allow the intersections to begin to function properly. And it will begin to respond to the mental influence, because it is the consciousness, it is the mental body that created those pathways, but it's being blocked by the accumulated samskaras that's embedded in the pathways.
Okay.
You understand?
Yes, I understand.
Yeah.
Okay. When the practitioner can chant mantra for at least 10 to 12 hours straight in a deep, concentrated manner, he can begin to untie or activate and move the great power of Kundalini that lies dormant at the base of the spine. When this concentrated power of 12 hours can be placed into 10-minute space or span of time and concentrate on the activation of Kundalini, it is said that this power moves up the spine. Of course, the activation of the Kundalini should only be attempted under the guidance of a qualified adept or master. When the soul has activated the Kundalini consciousness into full manifestation, the Kundalini rises up through Sushumna, the tiny hollow canal within the spinal column, that the sacred pure Kundalini energy travels through, Kundalini power travels through, as an awakened consciousness of the soul. Then the soul hears the mantras chanted from the omnipresence of God with awakened consciousness. With this great love acquired from the soul, hearing these holy sounds from God that vibrate through our celestial host, the soul chants these holy mantras of the chakras with a heart full of fashioned respect. When the Kundalini consciousness of the soul rises, it awakens each major chakra it reaches along the spinal column. The awakening of the chakras moves man's consciousness from a limited centered realm of consciousness to a universal or cosmic state of consciousness that recognizes all life as one, unmanifested intelligence of the absolute that lives through all manifested things. In the awakened states of Kundalini consciousness, man has purified his nadis and aura and have entered the deep states of meditation, where he hears the holy creative sound of God being issued from the mighty creative being of the solar system, the sun. Do you have any questions or comments? There are no questions or any comments? Let's see. And the final selection I wanted to read is actually an extract from Nehemiah's book on mantra, actually chapter 3, the power of mantra. Which goes into even more detail about mantra and even specific to the science of mantra. Before I do that, are there any questions? Okay, this is chapter 3, taken from DMI's book, Ancient Language of the Soul, the Mystic Knowledge of Mantra. Again, we read this as our introductory text in the study sessions series. And you can pick up a copy on Amazon, or you can go to the Mystic Knowledge of Our website and get direct links to purchase the copy of the text, or even order an autographed copy from the author himself. Okay, chapter 3, the power of mantra. Mantra derived from the Sanskrit letters varnas and words pada, which are bits of sound vibrations, sabda. The letters of the Sanskrit language can be seen on and throughout the major chakra symbols that are located along the spine. Each major chakra has a number of petals, which are bits of sound vibrations described with the Sanskrit letters. They are described as modes of motion that help to synchronize the cosmic energies or pranas within the etheric structures and human body. And within each of the major chakras along the spine, there is a seed mantra, bija, which is a one-syllable mantra. These seed mantras, bijas, help to govern the flow of prana, cosmic energies that moves through and out, or in and out, the chakra system. These Sanskrit letters and words symbolize several things. One, it represents the embodied consciousness of the soul and spirit. Two, it is the sabda bodies, or bodies of consciousness, that precedes the causal bodies, the etheric bodies, the astral bodies, and the physical. Three, it is the life signatures contained within and behind all the bodies, subtle and gross. Four, it defines the several levels of consciousness of man, unmanifested and manifested, being the A, supra-conscious mind, B, the superconscious mind, and C, the conscious mind. But five, it binds all the various bodies together, creating a vortex window that allow man's various levels of consciousness to exist and work on different realms of existence. And number six, it shows the evolutionary pathway that man uses to make his way back to God. Number seven, it shows the pathway that Kundalini takes on its journey to unite the soul with the spirit, or Shakti with Shiva, and much more. Mantra is sound vibrations presented to the human race as Sanskrit letters. Words and combinations of words, all expressing the will of God through its many names of God. All sounds came from the first spoken word, from the superior being, the absolute God. The Sanskrit alphabet is 50 bits of sound vibrations from the first spoken creative word. The Sanskrit language is reportedly used to design vehicles of expression for the soul. It is said that mantra is a language used by the soul to bring the chakras components into manifestation. Mantra is embodied sound vibrations that falls or sinks deep into the vortex centers of power that brought forward subtle and gross manifestation of Shakti. The Bindu, which is the spiritual germ of consciousness, the I am, and the I, releases the nada wave that's pure soundless sound. This nada wave moves forward and manifests the Shakti power out of the Shiva state of pure consciousness. This nada wave that expresses itself as sabda, while manifesting the Shakti power into various forms and shapes, after the Shakti is manifested, it falls into a samskara state of being that becomes embedded impressions of Shakti power signatures, mantras and seed mantras, on the jiva, the embodied consciousness within the chakra. These Shakti signatures brought about by the Sabda Shakti, sound power, are described as the Sanskrit letters that expresses itself as bijas, petals or seed mantras that's embedded in the chakras. In short, Mantra is the mental impressions, samskaras of the soul. When men intone these mantras or sound vibrations properly, it's as a natural magnetic pull. It has a natural magnetic pull on these embedded Shakti power signatures within the chakra system. This is where the great power of mantra resides within man. Constant recitation of the mantra by man moves the embedded Shakti power signatures out of a state of samskara consciousness into an active state of Shakti power. Then the power of mantra begins to live in the practitioner, and the mantra yogi acquires the power to shape and mold subtle and gross Shakti power at will through the expression of the mantra. This Shakti power brought about by the soul releasing a sound vibration moves to engross itself in order to build vehicles of expression that the soul consciousness can work through. This is done through sonic vibrations that produce synchronizing frequencies that organizes the mind substance and cosmic energies that move forward to manifest the human structure. This is performed by the synchronized Shakti power traveling down through Sushumna as united Shakti power. This Shakti power reaches the equilibrium point at the end of its descent through Sushumna. This is where the Shakti power moves into a 3.5 energy configuration that brings about a dormant state of Shakti power, which is called Kundalini. This 3.5 quote energy configuration blocks the doorway of Sushumna, creating a magnetic flux that forces Shakti power to divide itself into a static Shakti force and a dynamic Shakti force. This is the point where the Shakti power moves from a whole state of being to a state where it becomes a not whole state of consciousness. At this level, the coiled Shakti is called Kundalini. It is here where it releases the Pada sound that manifests itself into 3 other aspects of sound that holds consciousness into manifestation. The Sanskrit sound vibration that was used to formulate the frequencies of cosmic energies and mind substance through the points of consciousness, Bindu, within the chakra system move forward and create the etheric structures, levels of consciousness, mental bodies, subtle bodies, astral bodies, and the physical body. Therefore, all Sanskrit mantra represents the consciousness of man and has the unique ability to shape and mold mind substance, prana, and matter. Kundalini is a pure sound vibration, which is an aspect of the conscious will of God being expressed as Shakti consciousness. It also represents the true manifested consciousness of the soul. Therefore, Kundalini shapes and molds mind substance and pure cosmic energies, Shakti. Now let me say that mantra is a power source, a sacred power source too. Now what does that mean? Mantra is a sound vibration which is a manifested form of Shakti power invoked by consciousness and can be harnessed to be used for good or bad. Just as Kundalini is a form of consciousness manifested as sound and light, which all 3 aspects of it is inseparable, it is also one source of power, but it also is subject to be used for good or bad. Mantra is manifested by and through consciousness as sound. To understand this, we must make some knowledge of the science and philosophy behind mantra. The Sanskrit letters represent unmanifested sound, potential sound, or the potential desire to manifest sound. When the Sanskrit letters form a word, pada, it becomes an expressed conscious will and an aspect of manifested conscious will. When the Sanskrit words form a sentence, vakya, it's bringing into manifestation the conscious will on several planes of existence as a wave of conscious energies permeating the realms of existence as embedded consciousness in the form of solidified light. Sabda mantra is the initial power that brought the all-pervasive mind substance and cosmic energies out of a static state of endless potential to bring about creation as we know it. This mind substance and cosmic energies, or Shakti power, use the wave of sound vibrations to move into perpetuated motion that brought about a chain reaction of modifications. This initial sound vibration creates the Sabda, absolute sound, unmanifested and manifested, waves through the universe. What is Sabda, or the absolute sound? In the ancient Tantric Shakti doctrines, we can see that Akasa is noted to be etheric sound and is the carrying agent for all other Shakti Tattvic forces. Akasa is the all-pervasive force of Shakti, and all manifested Shakti uses Akasha to form and shape all objects subtle and gross. This Sabda is lettered sound and unlettered sound. Lettered sound is composed of words, pada, and sentences, vakya, such as sentences, vakya. Such sound as this has deep meaning with tremendous power of shaping and molding mind substance and cosmic energies. This type of Sabda molding mind substance, cosmic energies, this type of Sabda manifesting as speech is eternal and springs out as the background power to all things. As Sir John Woodruff wrote in his book, The Serpent Power, stated, it existed before and it exists after. Such manifestation, just as a jar in a dark room, which is revealed by a flash of lightning, is not then produced, nor does it cease to exist on the ceasing to be perceived through the disappearance of its manifester, the lightning. This lettered sound as speech can only be considered eternal when it rings from and before its first initial spoken word, or components of the initial spoken word that brings forth creation. The Shakti power was brought into active manifestation by sound, and it makes modification to creation by sound as well. Unlettered sound is the instrument used to bring forth lettered sound, conscious will, or embodied consciousness, Shiva. The embodied consciousness is an involved life stream or an engrossed soul that has positioned itself on a path of evolution to gain thousands of karmic experiences as it throws off its engrossed involved material from life to life. The soul uses this wave of sound power to move to and through evolution. Later on, I will go deeper into this part of Mantra Sastra. In describing the nature of Sabda in its various forms of modification that occurs through the all-pervasive universal mind substance and the all-pervasive cosmic energies, Shakti, we must examine the potential of this power, the manifested state of this power, and the state of consciousness it leaves from every modification. This wave of Sabda is the supreme conscious will of the absolute God. It's the power sound that stood as the potential will of the divine architect. The unique ability of this initial power sound, Sabda, is its power to shape and mold the power of universal mind and cosmic energies, which are the main ingredients of creation. Okay. And we'll leave the 4 aspects and the components of mantra for another time. Again, this is from chapter 3 of the book, The Ancient Language of the Soul, Mystic Science, Mystic Knowledge of Mantra, which is a book written by Nehemiah. It's available for purchase. Do we have any final questions or comments before we close out today's session? If there are no questions, let's close out by reciting the New Lord's Prayer. The New Lord's Prayer. O divine and wondrous Spirit, O everlasting Lord of hosts, send forth now through me thy great and lasting power. Allow me, Almighty God, the lasting privilege of radiating to all the world thy great love, so that those who suffer may be given the power and energy to rise above their weaknesses. Almighty God, in great humility do I ask you to send forth your power, to give to me this great lasting privilege of being a channel, so that my suffering brothers may be helped and guided and healed and lifted into thy light, so that they who know not may look up and in doing so receive to their higher selves your divine counsel. Almighty God, this day have you granted me a divine privilege. I ask you now to give to me the strength so that never again will I turn from my inner vision of you. Oh, great peace, great peace, great peace. In praise of your greatness, O God, doth my soul sing. Grant it energy to sing on forever and forever. All right, everyone, thank you very much for your attendance and your participation. As a reminder, we are currently in a spiritual push, so you can join us during this time on Tuesdays and on Thursdays for our weekly practice of the 12 blessings. If you'd like to join us, send us an email and we'll add you to our email list, or you can find our meetup group. I think it's the South Florida Ether Society group on Meetup. Otherwise, thank you for attendance and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.